Hi green lovers! I find the term vine-ripened tomatoes to be extremely misleading. In this video, I am going to share with you some of the original context around why tomatoes are called vine-ripened and what that really means. And I'm also going to be sharing with you how soon you can harvest your tomatoes and still retain maximum flavor and nutrition. Coming right up. Now, the origin of the term vine-ripened actually had to do with a method that was used to ripen tomatoes. And what that is the tomatoes are harvested while still connected to the vine with the expectation that it would help ripen the tomatoes optimally.
So that in itself is misleading because the tomatoes are no longer on the plant like these, ripening on the plant itself. Vine-ripened tomatoes are harvested with the vine and then ripened while they are disconnected from the plant. I find that to be extremely misleading and misrepresentative.
In reality, tomato ripening is a much more complex process than just leaving it on the vine. First, let's talk about the various stages of ripening that a tomato goes through. And then we will talk about when you can harvest the tomato so that it still maintains its peak flavor when it fully ripens.
The first stage is the green stage. Now, this is the stage prior to the ripening stage, and the tomato is shades of green, light green to dark green, etc. But there is no trace at all of color on the tomato. You do not want to pluck the tomato at this stage because it will not ripen. The next stage is the breaker stage, and at this stage, there is a definite break in color from the green stage to a tannish, yellowish to pinkish reddish stage. And it can happen in two ways. It can either happen over the surface of the tomato like this, or it might start out as a little streak of color at the bottom of the tomato. And this little streak should be no more than about 10% of the tomato. The third stage is the turning stage. And in that stage, you can actually see distinct color beginning to develop on the tomato. And if it is a streak at the bottom, the color extends no more than about 30% of the surface of the tomato. But in fact, you can see the difference from the green stage to the breaker stage to the turning stage, all in this one tomato vine. Stage 4 is the pink stage. Now at this stage, about 60% of the tomato has changed color, and you can see a distinct pinkish hue to this tomato, which will eventually become a red color. The fifth stage is the light red stage. At this stage, more than 60%, but less than 90% of the tomato is at pinkish or reddish stage. This is the final stage before stage 6, which is the red stage. In this stage, more than 90% of the tomato is at its final color of beautiful red. Now in this tray, I've got tomatoes at various different stages of ripening, and all these tomatoes have been plucked at either stage 2 or stage 3. Which is the breaker stage or the turning stage. And you can see that many of them have already achieved the final red stage. On the case of yellow tomatoes, they've achieved their yellow stage. And this has all happened sitting on the counter at room temperature. And there's absolutely no difference in flavor in my experience from a tomato that I pluck at this stage and allow to ripen on the kitchen counter versus a tomato that is plucked at its fully ripened stage.
One of the biggest benefits for me of being able to harvest a tomato when it is not yet fully ripe is that at this stage it is not a target to some of the prime pests that I've got in the garden at this time of year, which is early August, and that is chipmunks. Chipmunks absolutely love my tomatoes, but they do like my tomatoes nice and ripe. So they only go after the ones that are fully ripe, and believe me, they know when it is fully ripe. And it's always a little before you think it is fully ripe. So they get to it right at the time, right before the time that you are planning to pluck your tomato. So always go out there before you think it's ripe, but when it is starting to turn. You're just starting to see slight color here or there, or it has changed from its original green color to some kind of slight yellowish color. That is when you want to go and harvest it. The tomato is still kind of green, and so the chipmunks don't find it attractive. They will leave it alone, and you can bring it in, put it on your kitchen counter, and have it ripen to perfection. So I hope that helped, folks. I hope that you will try to preserve most of your harvest from pests by plucking it at the right stage, which is right before they get to it. And believe me, you will have a wonderful, tasty tomato that will not be compromised at all in any way, shape, or form from those so-called vine-ripened tomatoes that you get in the market. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you would be so kind as to hit that like button, it really does get this video out to a broader audience so more people can learn about tomato tips and tricks and other videos that I post on gardening hacks that really work. Until next time, live green and love your greens.